one of the best to ever wear the blue note, Bobby Plager. And now, your host for tonight's ceremony, John Kelly.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a very special night in Blues history. It's only fitting that this year the Blues franchise celebrates 50 years in St. Louis, and we officially retire the number 5 in honor of the legend Bobby Plager. You know, it's an honor for me to be out here tonight because, like all of you, I love Bob Plager and the Plager family. We have a great night tonight. Let's introduce some of our special guests. Some of your favorite Blues of all time. Bruce Affleck. Martin Brodeur. Jim Campbell. Kelly Chase. Blake Dunlop. Nelson Emerson. Bob Hess. Cam Jansen. Neil Komodowski. Reed Lowe. Scott Mellenby. Larry Patey. Bruce Racine. Jamie Rivers. Gary Savarin. Peter Stastny. Dave Tomlinson. Tom Tilley. Perry Turnbull. Tony Twist. John Winsick. Terry Yake. And Mike Zook. Please welcome the chairman of your St. Louis Blues, Tom Stillman, escorting 2 guests who were personally invited by Bobby, Patty Sullivan of the Sullivan family, and the wife of the late Dan Kelly, my mother, Fran Kelly. Celebrating Bobby's career with us tonight, his brother Barclay Plager's family, his wife Helen, daughters Karen and Carrie, and son Kevin. Now we welcome Bobby's family. Bobby's daughter Melissa Briggs and her husband Dave, and Bobby's grandchildren, Jacob and Katie. And also joining us tonight, Mr. Blues' son, Bobby Plager Jr. This night could not go on if we did not include Bobby's 2 favorite players who both wore number 5. Please welcome Rob Ramage and Barrett Jackman. Blues fans, tonight Bobby will join a very special group of men who have worn the note and proudly represented the St. Louis Blues. These men have had the highest honor an organization can bestow on them. From our elite group of retired numbers, please welcome Hockey Hall of Famer and recently announced top 100 NHL player, number 2, Al MacInnis. He was one of the toughest players to ever wear the blue note. To represent his father's number 3, Bob Gassoff, please welcome Navy SEAL Bobby Gassoff Jr. The heart and soul of the Blues in the early years and one of the best leaders to ever play for the Blues. Please welcome Kelly Plager, who is representing his father, number 8, Barclay Plager. Hockey Hall of Famer and another recently announced top 100 NHL player, number 16, Brett Hull. Another Hockey Hall of Famer, number 24, Bernie Federko. Bobby has meant so much to this town, and more importantly, the men who sit on the ice here tonight. His leadership and his personality have defined what it means to be a St. Louis Blue. Every Blues fan knows that he's number 5 in your program and number 1 in your heart.
Bobby's a special person.
He epitomizes what an NHL player should be, was, and is.
Gets it to Berenson. Back for Bob Plager to Henry at the side of the net.
You won't have one person say one bad thing about Bobby. You know, he is the Blue Note.
Clears it behind his own goal for Bob Plager on the board.
He's one of those guys that he's always lighthearted, he's always having fun, but he's really competitive.
Practical joker, funny, tough as nails.
There was one thing that you knew you were in for, and that was a hard day's work.
Now they drop the stick. They're ready to do battle. Bob Plager and Teddy Green. Plager flails away at the right hand. He gets Green's sweater over his head.
Bobby and his brothers and guys like Jimmy Roberts really built the Blues name in St. Louis.
When I look back when I came in 1976, I mean, that's 40 years ago, it was the Plager brothers that really ran the locker room.
You never came to play the St. Louis Blues, and it was going to be an easy day. And Bobby was a huge part of that culture.
They all start to push. Bob Plager came in.
You come in, you hang your jersey up. You don't throw it on the ground. I mean, that sweater meant so much, and that Blue Note. I mean, you have to look back to Bobby as being the guy, one of the guys that started.
Tried to clear it out. Bob Plager held it in. Plager plays it off the boards to McCurry. Now Bob Plager is shot. He scores!
Blocked by number 5, Bob Plager.
As Bob Plager picks it up, his shot scores.
I always consider Bobby probably the godfather of the St. Louis Blues.
How many people can say one organization for 50 years?
He still has a wealth of knowledge, a lot of wisdom about what it takes to win.
Lemieux missed a check from Bob Plager. Bob Plager to Berenson. He scores!
Plager, having someone like that to kind of talk to the young kids about what it was like in '67, coming in and starting a new team.
He just goes out of your way no matter who you are, whether you're a great player, an average player, or just a guy who put on the Blue Note for 2 games.
He's got an internal passion for this team, and he cares.
Gets it back to Bob Plager. There's his down the score. St. Louis with Savarin deflecting Bob Plager's shot.
If you can't understand where you came from, how are you going to understand where you're going? And Bobby Plager is the epitome of where we've come from.
Someone that we should all look up to and say, this is how you're supposed to represent not only the city of St. Louis, but the St. Louis Blues.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the legend, Mr. Blue, number 5, Bobby Plager. finding the story of this team. Now we pause to hear from the men who were there with you from the very start.
Bobby, he was a good guy for a hockey team. He was loose, you know, and he kept all the players loose. So he played well in St. Louis, and, you know, he came to play.
And Plager plays it safe by falling on the rebound.
He was a good team man. He was a type of player you'd rather play with him than against him.
It rushes up ice, but Bob Plager is waiting for him.
When I played against Bobby in junior, he was a character, but he was a character I didn't like. You know.
Plager took a cheap shot. He sure did.
Oh, yeah, Bobby was always a character. And we had a little tussle a couple years before I came to the Blues. And he got me, he hit me over the head, you know, and I was bleeding profusely. And when, you know, 2 years later, we're on the same team, so we sort of laughed about it. At that point, I knew I was going to be on his team, so I didn't have to deal with him anymore.
He would run his brother to win a hockey game, and that's the way Bobby came to play, and he liked to joke around. He pulled a couple of things on me that I wouldn't say. He knows. He could get away with things as far as with an owner or stuff like that, because he would do it with a smile or a joke.
He was just a fun-loving guy, and he kept everybody loose and blended in well with all the players. He was just that kind of a guy.
That's some great video, folks. Let's welcome Blues Chairman Tom Stillman.
Good evening, Blues fans, and thank you very much for being here on this very, very special night. For 50 years, it's half a century, Bobby Plager has given himself completely and selflessly to the St. Louis Blues and to the St. Louis community as a whole. Bobby came to the Blues in the summer of 1967, just ahead of the start of our first season. St. Louis fans immediately embraced Bobby, and he wholeheartedly returned that embrace. And 50 years later, neither side has let go. In those early days, Bobby was instrumental in developing the culture of the Blues team and the Blues organization. And that culture has also stood the test of time. Even when his playing days ended, Bobby remained committed to the Blues. He served the team in a number of capacities, as coach, as scout, as broadcaster, you name it. Over the years, he has personally impacted every person who has been part of the Blues organization over that time. And he's also personally impacted countless Blues fans. Most of us can remember the first time that we met Bobby, whether it's his stories about the early years or his endless supply of jokes. Bobby Plager is truly one of a kind. He is the ultimate Blue. So, over the last 50 years, the Blues have taken us on quite a ride. We've been to the Stanley Cup final. We've witnessed a Monday night miracle. We've hosted a Winter Classic. We've seen players collect 500 goals, 1,000 points, and a number of NHL awards. We've mourned the passing of legendary Blues, including Bobby's own brothers, Barclay and Billy. But through it all, through all those years, there has been one constant, and that is Bobby Plager. From past Hall of Famers to our current roster, Bobby has been here to ensure that we stay true to our roots and true to the foundation that he helped build in those early years. So Bobby, we are thrilled that you're able to share this special night with your whole family here. Your son Bobby, your daughter Melissa, your son-in-law Dave, and your beautiful grandchildren, Jacob and Katie. And of course, we also know that Barclay and Billy will also be watching. They'll all be watching as we honor you tonight by raising your number 5 to the rafters, where it will hang alongside Barclay's number 8 and the rest of our all-time greats. And we are so happy that you and Barclay will be back together forever.
Thank you, Mr. Stillman. Now let's hear from another member of our elite players, number 24, Bertie Federko.
Thanks very much, John. I feel very privileged to be a part of this incredible night in Blues history. Bobby, for 50 years, you've been the heartbeat of this franchise. In 1967, the St. Louis community was captivated by yourself and your teammates as you began building the identity of what has become one of the most respected franchises in the National Hockey League. From a player's perspective, your presence in this organization has been and will continue to be invaluable. You have the rare ability to share the experience of watching our franchise evolve over half a century. The knowledge that you have bestowed upon myself and hundreds of other Blues alums over the years has played a huge part in all of our lives, both on and off the ice. When I think back about all the legendary players that have come through St. Louis, I also think just how lucky we are to have one of those legends walking around in the halls here at Scottrade every day with us. Your passion and commitment to the Blues and the city of St. Louis has been a shining example for myself and each and every player that has been fortunate enough to put on the Blue Note. I couldn't be happier tonight that you're receiving this honor, especially with Bobby, Melissa, Dave, Jacob, and Katie by your side. I know they're extremely proud of you, as are all the Blues alumni and the great fans of St. Louis here. Bobby, thank you for everything you've done for me and my family over our time here in St. Louis. Your stories about the first days of the franchise and your hilarious jokes will stay with us forever. You are truly one of a kind and a big reason why the St. Louis Blues are such a special franchise to play for. Simply put, you are a true Blue that taught us all what the note really means. On behalf of myself, Al McInnes, the late Bob Gassoff, Brian Sutter, Brett Hull, and of course, your late great brother Barclay, who I know has got that big smile going on right now as he's looking down, I'm honored to finally say Bobby, welcome to the club. Congratulations.
Thank you, Bernie. Blues fans, it's only fitting that we now hear from the last Blues player to ever wear Bobby's number 5, Barrett Jackman.
Thanks, JK. Bobby, it's an honor for me to be standing here tonight and celebrating such an amazing career as a Blue. When I walked into the Blues locker room for my first training camp in September of '99, I was a little naive. I wasn't completely aware of what it meant to have the number 5 on my sweater. But after talking to guys like Al McInnes, Chris Pronger, Kelly Chase, Bernie Fedorko, and many more, it was clear I had a big responsibility ahead of me. Anyone that has had the privilege of being around Bobby knows how much pride he has in the number 5, and more importantly, the pride he had in wearing the blue note. There's no debate. Bobby has poured more passion and dedication into the Blues than anyone who has passed through St. Louis. Bobby, I know I speak for myself and guys like Rob Ramage and Garth Butcher when I say that we were motivated each and every day to represent your jersey with the same passion for the game and the St. Louis community as you did. I am incredibly humbled to be part of a very special night for my favorite mentor and fellow alum. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for allowing me to borrow your sweater for so many years. You have meant so much to my family, like the whole Plager family standing beside you. We are beyond excited to watch your number 5 go into the rafters. Thank you for your true stories, your many pictures, and even more laughs over the years, but more important, thank you for teaching myself and so many others what it really means to be a true Blue. Bobby, I love you and congratulations.
The last number 5, Barrett Jackman. And now, 5 decades of blood, sweat, and smiles have led to this moment. St. Louis, please welcome to the podium your Mr. Blue number 5, Bobby Plager.
Thank you. Thank you. This is going to be very tough on me tonight, get up here and speak. And as most of you might know, whenever I've been on the ice like this here, I didn't usually come down here to speak. I watched that film tonight, and I was really surprised. I got to see all my 4 goals again in the NHL. No, this is very special, and I'd like to thank you. I'm a little choked up already here, but I'd like to thank you and thank you, Blues fans. This is going to be great. I'm very honored and very humbled by tonight. I feel so privileged. You know, I'm privileged to have played the game of hockey that I love. Privileged to play in the city of St. Louis and to play for the St. Louis Blues. It's been a privilege to raise my family here in St. Louis. I want to say is what is going to happen here tonight, or what is happening for Bob Plager. It's not just for Bob Plager. Tonight is for all the great coaches, the great players that I've played with. A lot of you won't know the players. The reason that I am here, I got to play with players that are Hall of Famers. Some of them, their sweaters hang in different rinks. Players, Glenn Hall, Jock Plant, Doug Harvey, Dickie Moore, John Gay Talbot, Al Arbor, Jimmy Roberts. You know, most of these players, what I said, their sweaters hang somewhere. Their Hall of Fame, their sweaters hang in different arenas all around the league. I got here for the first 2 years with my brothers and with these players. For 2 years, we just sat in that dressing room and we listened and we watched these players. And from them, we learned. We learned what the game of hockey was, how to win and how to win. It was a tough year for me this year. We lost 4 of those players, or 4 of my players this year. Al, Dickie Moore, Jimmy Roberts, and my brother Billy. It's from them I learned in the game of hockey. You go out there, we all learned it wasn't the name on the back of the sweater, it was the crest of the front. And we learned when you get on the ice, you were out there, you were a team, you played for your teammates. You played for the fans, you played for your owners. You give it everything you had on the ice, you never cheated. You didn't have great games all the time, but you know when you left the ice that you had given it your best. So for me being here tonight, those are the players along with there's a lot of other players and coaches, but I'm here because of them. And my sweater is going up there tonight because of those players. And one of those players who couldn't make it here tonight is my best friend. He was my teammate. He was my partner on the ice. He was my roommate. It's Noel Picard. He was one tough cookie, and a player like Noel, playing with him, it made my job, and I think it made it a lot easier for a lot of the players that were out there playing. Noel said once, he told everybody that he roomed with me for 4 years. But the truth be known, I just got to room with his suitcase for 4 years. To all my alumni with the Blues, it has been my privilege to know and to play with you players, and especially some of my teammates. Bruce Affleck came to St. Louis, was my roommate for a while. Bob Hess, Larry Patey, two of the players that played my first part of my career. There was a couple players here last night, and there's still one player here, played from the first year St. Louis, 67, played for 5 years here, 6 years with me. It was Red Berenson was here, and Gary Sabrin. I'm honored And I'm very grateful to all the team owners, and especially the owners, our first owners, the Solomon family. We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here tonight without their vision. And there's a special person here tonight to help celebrate with us, the daughter of Sid Solomon, Patty Solomon. Patty, thank you. It was a Solomon family that took this team, and it made us a family. It took this team, the Blues family, and the city was involved, the fans were involved. Those first years, we were all family, and it was because of the Solomons, and I thank them. And to all the other owners along the way, they must have known something, because I've been here for 50 years. To Tom Stillman and the current ownership group, thank you. My family and I, this is a night that is so special for me, my family. And we said, my brother Bark, he's up there. Thank you. I don't know how to explain it or what to say, but it's great. Thank you. And I'm also very honored, and we had one up here tonight by a couple of the players that wore the number 5. You know, when you wear a number and you do retire, you always look and you wonder who's going to get your number again, who's going to get it. And I was very, very fortunate. The number 5 was very fortunate. When I retired, one of the first players to come in here, and he wore the number 5, and you couldn't ask for a better person, a better player, a team player, a player who come up there and on the ice, he gave his team and his players a chance to become better. He wore the number with pride. He was a leader of the team. Rob Ramage. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Rob. You were my brother Barkley's favorite, and I think you know that. Bark loved you. And the other player was just up here. You know, you're given a time limit to speak out here, and I don't have enough time to say what I would like to say about Barrett Jackman. Barrett said, quick, we had a scout, Western Canada scout, in 98, 99, but 98, who I asked, do you have any good players for us here? It was Patty Janelle. He says, well, there's one I really love, but I don't think we get him. I don't think he'll be there when our draft comes. So as the year went on, he says, my guy he won't be there. He won't be available. I went out and I watched him play, and you fall in love with him right away. You seen him on the ice. He's the player that he stuck up the one night for his teammates. They got in trouble. He was the first guy there. He was playing injured. I saw him a couple times, and you fall in love. Our scout, Patty Janelle, said, you know, he's the type of player that could play. He's old school. You would love to play with him. Your brother would love to play with him. We did get to draft him in 1999, and with the number 5, I had asked, it wasn't being worn, to give it to Barrett Jackman, because Barrett went on to be the Rookie of the Year in the National Hockey League, a team player, and that's what you say. He's the guy you wanted on your team. He's the guy you didn't want to play against. He made your players better. He played with injuries. He showed up every night. Barrett, who came back to St. Louis this year, recently retired. Barrett and his family, in St. Louis, another player. He makes his home in St. Louis, but it's very special for me with Barrett. And I want to know you guys to know that number 5 is going in the rafters. It will have Plager on it. But to me, when I look up there, I'll be thinking of Barrett Jackman, Rob Ramage. And in my career, I had some great years here, but probably the most fun I ever had is I had to go down to Peoria one year to coach down in Peoria. So I went down to Peoria to coach, and it turned out I had more fun that year. We set records in a lot of things. That hockey team was down there. We won the Turner Cup. I have a couple players here tonight that played in that team. The captain, he also played here in St. Louis for some games, played in Boston. The captain of that team, Dave Tomlinson. And I had a young player down there. What a year he had down there. He ended up being the Rookie of the Year on our team, came to St. Louis, played here for years, got traded, went on to have a great career. Nelson Emerson. And I'll have to correct myself there. I went down to Peoria to coach. I thought I was the coach, but one other player that I had in that team, I think he was the coach, Kelly Chase. Kelly had quite a year down there that year. He had 20 goals that year. He's a 20-goal scorer. Plus, he had 400 and some minutes in penalties. But Kelly Chase is very special to me. He's special to this city in St. Louis. He came up the next year, played for the St. Louis Blues. Kelly lives here. Kelly is more involved and with this city and what he does for this city and the charities and the money he goes out and makes for the charities. We're very, very fortunate to have a guy like Kelly Chase in St. Louis. And I wouldn't be here without, and I'm very honored by all the coaches, the trainers, the equipment managers, the front office personnel, including some of the greatest that never played a game in the St. Louis Blues. I was involved. One of the guys that helped me more than anybody else was a general manager, a coach for the New York Rangers. My first coach in junior, coach that was general manager of St. Louis, Emile Francis. And again, I was a better player, and it was my privilege to play for what I think is the greatest coach in hockey. Was here for our first few years, Scotty Bowman. I talked to them, and I know they're watching from their homes tonight. And another one that was here, my favorite, your favorite, and it's the man that kept hockey going here in St. Louis, the general manager. He was the guy, the general manager, that brought Brett Hull to St. Louis. He was the man that always had meat on the burner. And I know he's watching from that great press box in the sky. Thank you, Ron Caron. And I had some special people here when I was there in my career that I got to hang around with. Joel Quenneville, Mike Kitchen, and there was one special person our first year. It's a young kid from Dogtown. Come in, he started as a stick boy for us, moved up, equipment manager, a friend of all of ours, and we miss him, Frankie Burns. And there's a few other people. I know I'm going to miss a lot of people. In fact, I'll miss thousands of people that I should be thanking. But there's a couple special here. Bruce Rubin, good friend of mine. Mike Caruso, been here a long time. Thank you, Mike. And for the Blues play-by-play man, Chris Kerber. You know, I'm privileged because every day I walk into this building, in the arena here, I walk in and I look up and see the retired and honored numbers hanging in the rafters. You know, I know each and every one of them. And tonight I'm very, very humbled that I'm now going to be a part of that rare crowd. It's Doug Wickenheiser. There's a banner up there, whose life was cut too short by cancer, but lives on, not only in his memorable overtime Monday night miracle, but his wife and his beautiful wife and family still reside here in St. Louis. And another person who has been very special to the city of St. Louis, to the hockey fans. In the early days, we didn't televise games, maybe 5 a year, but we had the greatest announcer in hockey. Dan Kelly, hanging up there. Dan Kelly, he brought the magic of the Blues hockey to a huge audience. He taught most of the people, a lot of the people here in St. Louis, the game of hockey. And even if we didn't play so well some nights on the road, we would come back and some way Dan Kelly made us sound great because the people thought we were bad, but we were still great. He had that certain thing. Tonight, the Kelly family was here. And I'd like to welcome Fran, Kelly family, and John for hosting here tonight. Thank you to us. To me, the Kelly family means as much to the Blues as the Sutters, the Plagers, and I'm very grateful for them. Thank you. Now for the group that I am joining. Number 2, Al McGinnis. His leadership, class, on and off the ice, his quick, powerful shot. He's a true Hall of Famer on the ice, and he is off the ice. And there was only really one difference between Al and I. His shot was 100 and some miles an hour. Mine was a delay game penalty. Bob Gassoff. Bob was my roommate. We never got to see how great Bob Gassoff would have been as a hockey player. His death hurt this hockey team, and it hurt it not just for a season, it hurted us for years. Me playing with Bob Gassoff, I was about 6'4", 230 pounds, and I probably would have had my best years if he had still been around. Bob is represented here by his son, who we all have to be proud of it. I know his wife, Diane, and their son. They're here, and it's retired Lieutenant Commander Robert Barclay Gassoff. Bob's son, Robert, a former Nail SEAL, has inspired all of us with his devotion and his service to our country. Thank you, Bob. Brian Sutter, could not be here tonight because he's chasing some cattle around instead of some defenseman. But when you talk about the Blues, Brian Sutter, nobody wore the blue note with more pride. Brian gave every one of his teammates more room to play on the ice. He played every night, and he's one of those players that didn't take the night off, played with injuries, and he bleeds blue 100%. Number 16. Brett Hull. You save talking in this town. They say you're the player that built this building. You were the purest goal scorer that ever lived. You're the most outspoken Blue. But, you know what? And I always say it. You can say what you want, and you can say what you feel. You're the only player I know. Say it, you will go out and back it up. So you have the right to say whatever you want to say. Bernie Federko, first player ever drafted by the Blues. He's the first player drafted in the history of the Blues to have played in 1,000 or more games, to have got over 1,000 points. He was a player out there, you give him the blue line, you have a problem. He would set up behind the net, they'd say that was his office. We had 50 goal scorers here, we had 40 goal scorers here because of Bernie Federko. He's a Hall of Famer, Bernie Federko. Still with the St. Louis Blues, does a great job on the TV, but he's another player, Bernie and his wife Bernadette and his family, they still make St. Louis their home. This is the tough part for me now, and I don't know if I'll make it through, but I'm on a little roll now, so. I have to talk about my favorite player. It's number 8. Barkley here is represented tonight by his son, his oldest son, wearing the number sweater, Kelly Plager. And on the ice here tonight is Bark's family, Helen, Kelly, Kevin, Carrie, Karen. You know, to talk about Bark, you have your heroes. And my brother Bark was my hero. I am here because of my brother Bark as a young kid watching my brother in little kids hockey. Someday I'm going to be as good as him. I want to be as good as him. He always tried. I don't think I was as good as him. But Barkley was in here. He was loved by his teammates. He was feared by everybody else. He never took the night on. It was not the name on the back. It was the crest on the front. And he... Every time I walk into this building and I sit down, I'm up at the back, I look up and I talk to my brother Bark. So tonight, I get to hang up there with him. To the St. Louis fans, I'm privileged to met so many fans and friends throughout my 50 years. I say friends I've got to meet, and so many of them, obvious. It's been a privilege, and it's been an honor to play here. And my last thing, I'd like to welcome my family here tonight, who this is what it's all about. I'd like to welcome my son, Robert Barkley Plager. My daughter, Melissa Briggs, her husband, David, and my two little favorite guys and girls, Jacob, Katie. So I'm going to close tonight and say this has been very, very special. We don't have time. I could be here for hours and hours and talk about players, friends, but thank you for this opportunity. And again, Mr. Stillman, what you've done, this is the greatest night. It's been said before, I am the luckiest person to have played hockey. And I thank you, fans. So, thank you to the St. Louis Blues players for being out here and being part of it. Thank you, fans. And I bleed blue. Thank you.
It's time. Time to raise your number to its proper place. Please take to the heartland of hockey carpet along with your family and Barkley's family. cannot think of a more fitting anthem than what we just heard, Band of Brothers. Once again, Blues fans, let's hear it for number 5, forever the legendary Bobby Plager.
What a very special ceremony for not only a special player that played 11 years here in St. Louis, but more importantly, a special person with a special family. And that entire Plager family still bleeds blue today. Bobby Plager officially just moments ago having his number 5 raising from the rafters here at the Scott Trade Center. Great moment here and a special night for this 50th anniversary of the Blues organization. Of course, Bobby, one of the original Blues when the Blues came here as an expansion team back in 1967. And there goes number 5 off the Scott Trade Center ice. And a great hand from a great crowd that has made it here in downtown St. Louis as Bobby sits upstairs with his number 5 on the rafters with his number 8 brother, Barclay Plager, as he mentioned, his best friend. Former Blues defenseman Jamie Rivers